All right, let's switch gears and talk Indians. We'll bring in our Indians beat reporter, Paul Hoynes, via phone. Hoynesy, what's going on?
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
All right, not too bad, Hoynesy. Lots of guys in the Indians front office doing well, of course, this week. They get promotions. Chris Antonetti is the new president. Mike Chernoff, he is the new general manager. Let's talk about Antonetti first. Is he still going to have a heavy hand in baseball operations, or is he going to take on the Mark Shapiro role of pushing the ballpark features, being the face of the franchise? Well, how does his role change?
I don't think his role changes at all. I think he's still the top baseball guy. The buck stops with him in all baseball decisions. I think this is more like a cosmetic move. They didn't want to lose Chernoff. He was getting some feelers, some other teams. So, they bump Antonetti up to give him a new title. They give Chernoff, now he's the GM, and Derek Talby's the assistant GM. Everybody gets a raise, I would imagine, and everybody's happy. But I don't think the dynamic on the baseball side of things change. Paul Dolan is kind of I guess right now is probably assuming Mark Shapiro's role. And, in talking to Antonetti, I think if he wants to talk, he answers strictly to Dolan now. Shapiro is out of there, so there's no middleman between Antonetti and Dolan. So, if I guess if they'll discuss some business stuff, but from the way I understand it, Antonetti's strictly a baseball guy right now.
So what's going to change for this team going into the off season, if anything, then, Hoynesy?
Yeah, that's the big question. We know they're not going to be a big player in the free agent market. Two, they have a surplus of starting pitching, and three, they've got about 3 or 4 holes in the middle of that lineup that need to be filled. So a logical person would say you've got to trade one of your pitchers to help the lineup, because offense is probably the only thing that kept you out of the postseason this year.
Hoynesy, this kind of piggybacks off of Fedor's question about what's going to change. On the one side of town, of course, you have the Browns, who change all the time. With the Indians, it's been a kind of a constant stream of just promoting guys and whatnot. And since about 2001, there hasn't been a lot of success. Is what the Indians are doing working? Is it not working? How would you rate it?
Well, in terms of postseason appearances, it has not worked. They made the wild card 2 years ago, but that was a one and done. And you can ask Pittsburgh fans how they feel about that today. And they've had 3 winning seasons. I guess you can build on that a little bit. But as far as competing in the division and being a legitimate postseason contender, they haven't been. And I think there's I like stability in an organization. I think that's how you establish a winning tradition. That's how everything is the same every year. There's not a constant turnover, but sometimes things can grow stale too. So I think they're kind of caught in between right now.
Knowing the Indians like you do, and talking to the Indians all the time, Hoynesy, how do they define success? Like, for them, was this past year successful because they finished 1 game over 500? Was it not successful because they didn't make the playoffs? How do they define it internally?
They did not think it was a success.
Okay.
The first thing Chris Antonetti said, at his postmortem on Tuesday was, it's disappointing to be sitting here talking to you guys right now at this time of the season. When the season started, we expected to be in the postseason. So in that regard, this was not a success. I think they can take something from the second half, where they played winning baseball, where they made some changes, but that doesn't change, the overriding problem that you've got maybe 3/4 of a ball club. You've got a decent defense. a dramatically improved defense. You have starting pitching, you have a bullpen, but you have an offense that scored ranked 11th in runs scored this past season. And to improve, that's an expensive proposition to improve that, no matter how you look at it. And, that's the problem they're facing.
Hoynes, you brought up the second wild card, and obviously that's been a big conversation here in this town and all around baseball, actually. And I think everybody understands why it's in there. I think it made for an exciting race, especially in the American League. It came down to the very end with Houston and Los Angeles and a bunch of other teams had a chance going into September. But there's the other side of it where you have the Pittsburgh Pirates nearly win 100 games on the year, and their reward for nearly winning 100 games is facing Jake Arrieta in a one-and-done situation. So do you think Major League Baseball should change the way that the wild card is done? And the NBA is going to, all right, the top 8 teams, divisional winners, that doesn't matter. It's all based on record. Do you think Major League Baseball should do away with the divisional format and just say, all right, the 4th and 5th best records, those are the 2 teams that are going to play in that wild card game?
I like the divisional setup. I like the rivalries and the weighted schedule that puts an emphasis on winning the division. I like that part of it. You win the division, you can take a deep breath. What I don't like is that one-game knockout. That isn't baseball. That's not a true test of your team or your 25-man roster. I don't know if you shorten the regular season so you could play a best of 3. I think that would at least give teams like the Cubs and the Pirates really a chance to really show what kind of talent got them to that position. To me, it's. I know it's a dramatic thing, but that's you play 162 games to play 9 innings, and you run into on that Arrieta when he's rolling like no other pitcher's rolled since the All-Star break, and that's it. That's what you get. I mean, geez, oh man. I mean, it's a tough call, and I know there's been some talk like maybe you could play a doubleheader. The 2 wild card teams could play a doubleheader like last night, and play a 3rd game the next day. There's been a whole bunch of different things, but I think if this was kind of an anomaly, the 3 best teams in the National League coming out of one division, I think. But if it continues to happen, obviously you're going to have to change because that's not fair. It's your best teams aren't. It's not fair to those teams, and it's not fair to Major League Baseball or the fans because they're not getting a chance to see the best teams, in a prolonged postseason.
Pirates wouldn't say it's an anomaly. They had to go against Madison Bumgarner last year and Jake Arrieta this year after having such success during the regular season. They're like, what the world?
Hoynesy, we now know the matchups for the divisional series. And we're looking at the World Series. Who do you have? Who wins the World Series?
Oh boy, I think I guess you got to go with St. Louis. And I mean they've been but I don't know. I think the Cubs kind of have that momentum. I would love to see the Cubs get into the World Series. That would be I don't know when was the last time that happened. I don't know. They haven't won it in over 100 years. So 19 whatever it is, 16 or whatever. So I think maybe the Cubs and from the American League. I think Kansas City's beat up a little bit. Texas, I think they got a break. But boy, I don't know if it's Houston. I'm going to go with Kansas City. I think I'll go with Kansas City and the Cubs getting in there.
Does Mark Shapiro get a ring if the Blue Jays win?
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. Yeah. No, he might. You know, because he's the boss now, so he can get anything he wants, right?
I guess so.
Put that on the resume. World Series
That's
winner.
Right. Yeah.
If nothing else, he can afford to buy his own ring, I guess. So. All right, Hoynes,
That's right.
appreciate you taking the time.